Welcome back to Introspection from Grief to Growth. I'm Amy Lindner Lesser, your host, and today we're exploring a topic that feels especially poignant at this time of year: freedom. Don't worry, this is not going to be political or patriotic. It's not that kind of freedom. Instead, it's a personal, soulful freedom, the kind that becomes possible after a lifequake. Welcome to Introspection, the podcast about moving from grief to growth. I'm Amy Lindner Lesser, your host. Introspection started out as a podcast about hospitality, innkeeping, and innkeepers. After about a year, I realized that my life and interests have morphed from hospitality to helping others navigate from grief and loss to growth and living. In this new version of Introspection, I will be talking about my personal experiences with loss, and there are quite a few, what I've learned along the way through my professional training, as well as from my coaching experiences. I'll also be bringing in guests to share interesting ideas. So grab a beverage, find a comfy place, take a deep breath, and listen in. It's the kind that grief can both bury and reveal. We're used to thinking about all of the awful things that happen when we go through a lifequake or a loss. But I want to suggest that there's a silver lining to all of this, and that within this lifequake, within the messy middle, is an opportunity to look at who we are and make a decision. And it doesn't have to be a permanent one. That's what I love about being human, is that we can change our minds. We can continue to grow. So it's the kind of freedom that we get to choose. Let's start here. Grief shatters. It shatters our identity. After my husband Steve died, I wasn't just a widow at almost age 43, but I found I was a different version of myself. Right at that point, I was uncertain, very angry. I was tender, and I felt raw and exposed. Some of the me's or the roles that I've played in my life no longer apply to who I was that day. And I realized not just that, there were a lot of new roles that I had to add to my identity. I wasn't a wife or a partner anymore. I wasn't just a mom. I was now a mom and a dad, or at least the dad figure. I became the cook and the chef at our inn. I was the shopper and the jopper. I was the facilities manager, responsible for finding the people to do the repairs since I didn't know how to do them and legally wasn't allowed to do them. I became the security officer and, in one case, the bouncer. Those were roles I wasn't used to. I was used to being the greeter, the person who made reservations, who was the concierge. I served the guests, but I didn't have to do the other stuff. After Steve's death, I found I had to do it all. And then years later, when I sold the inn that I had poured my heart and soul into for 25 years, I again felt untethered. Being an innkeeper was my identity for more than 2 decades. I used to use the inn's name as my name when I made dinner reservations and for my email address. It was a lot easier saying my last name was Rookwood than it was Lindner Lesser. Nobody could spell that one. Without that identity, I was back asking the question, who am I now that I'm no longer who I was? Grief isn't just about losing someone or something. It's also about losing a sense of self. And yet, within that ache is the seed of something sacred and very positive, a true silver lining. It's the power to choose again. For many women, especially those who are in their 70s and beyond, having the option to choose possibly their career, whether to go to college and what their major was going to be, whether to work outside the home and doing what, was often not their decision. If they were married, it was often their husband's decision. And if they weren't married, it was probably their dad's. Now it's their decision. They can choose. And what's fascinating and exciting is that the choice that they make today doesn't have to be the choice that they'll make tomorrow or next week. We get to experiment. It's almost like being a young adult or a adolescent again, with the wisdom that we've gained in the years in between. There's a myth that's very prevalent. It's the myth of moving on. People often say, it's time to move on. I think that's really deeply flawed and false or bad advice. Healing is not linear. That means it doesn't go from point E to point B straight ahead. It's much more spiral like, and we don't go straight in the spiral either. Sometimes we go up and sometimes we go down, and sometimes we go up again and we go back down a little bit. Grief doesn't end. It evolves. It changes. And what I've seen and also lived is that we don't move on, we move with. We don't leave our stories and our love behind. We move with. We take those stories and that love with us, with the ache, with the knowledge that we're not the same person as we were before. And that's not a bad thing. I think of all of the things that I have learned to do since Steve died. I learned to live on my own. I had never lived without being in my parents' home or having a roommate and then having my husband. And then even for the first, 10 years or so, having one of my children at home. I had to learn to be with myself. I had to learn to deal with silence. And even how I deal with silence has changed over the years. For many, I had to have a television going because I needed to hear a human voice. Now I'm okay with the silence. I'm okay with the voice that I hear in my head, with talking to myself or talking to my animals. Um, it's there are some wonderful things that I have learned and I have gained. And I've gained also the fact that I really enjoy my own company. I never thought I would be able to say that. As an only child, I always surrounded myself with friends or family or just other people. I know there were times that I said yes to going out with friends or acquaintances just because I didn't want to be home alone. Not anymore. I'm okay with that. So, what does freedom look like after a loss? It's going to look different for every single person, just like grief and loss look different for every single person. For one person, it might look like saying no without an explanation. It might look like laughing again and not feeling guilty, letting go of roles you've outgrown without someone saying, you can't get rid of that. Sure, you can. Why not? Choose a new morning routine that feels more like you. If you don't have a job or a place that you have to be, who says you have to get up at 7 a.m.? Experiment. Stay in bed a little longer. Trust your intuition. When the world is saying do something one way, but yet you're feeling inside that's not the way you have to do it, trust that. Freedom isn't flashy. It's not always easy, but you know what? It's yours. One of the women I worked with recently told me, and I'm going to try to quote her, grief gave me permission to finally tell the truth about my life. And what that meant to her was that she was able to express her own opinions and not have to worry about what somebody else might think. She didn't have to worry if anybody agreed with her. She could say, I don't feel like Italian food tonight. I'd rather have Chinese food. She was able to get loud. She didn't have to be the nice woman who sat in the corner laughing at her husband's jokes when she had heard them hundreds of times, and even the first time they weren't funny. She was able to change her career. She left teaching and started to be an artist because that's what her soul wanted her to do. That's freedom. It doesn't come with fireworks, even though we may be seeing them on Friday this year. It comes with courage. So, how do you do that? Here are a few ways to begin reclaiming your freedom. Some tools for you. Yep, journaling. It's always one of my tools. I love to journal. There's nothing like a new journal with clean pages and a pretty pen and taking that pen and putting it to the paper. Try some prompts like, who am I now? Or what version of me am I ready to meet? Something like a bullet journal where you do a list. So list what roles you played before your lifequake, before your transition. Just a list of every single one of them. And then take a different color pen and cross off the ones you're no longer playing. And then with a third color, what additional roles are you playing now? And if you can find another color pen, what things are you thinking you might want to add to your list of roles? For example, one of the things that I added to mine was writer. And I've written a bunch of articles for Aspire magazine, and I've co-authored 3 books. That wasn't a role I ever thought I would do. Never thought I'd be a writer. What are things that you might have wanted to do when you were a teenager and either were told girls don't do that or you can't do that, or you didn't feel confident that you had the skills? There's nothing stopping you. What else might you want to do? The next tool is a permission slip. Give yourself permission to rest, to feel joy, to not have answers. I like the idea of writing a permission slip for yourself. Take a piece of paper and write your name has permission to, and whatever it is. So if it's to play more, to laugh more, to go out during the week, to sleep late on a weekend, whatever it is, then take that paper and hang it on a mirror, put it in your purse and carry it with you. Look at it every time you're questioning, should I do this? Should is a word that can be dangerous. Who says that you must do something? Who gave you the should? If it's not the law, you decide if you want to do it. If you're not hurting anyone, go for it. Make sure you have a community around you. So surround yourself with people who see your becoming, who see your future, not just who you've been in the past. People who can allow you to grow, and either they grow along with you or they release you. Sometimes having a community that has similar experiences and interests is what makes sense. Then there are spiritual practices like Reiki, stillness like meditation, or gentle movement like yoga. All of those help to center you and to get your energy ready to move so that it's not stuck anywhere. This is the essence of what I do. I help people, mostly women, find themselves again in the messy middle and recognize that healing isn't a destination. It's a reclaiming and a journey. And we are all worthy of being joyful, of thriving in our lives. There's no need to punish ourselves, and there's no need to become a martyr. If you lost a loved one to death, I'm pretty sure that they would want you to be happy, that it would make their soul happy and more restful if they knew that you were taking care of yourself and that you were looking for freedom. So, as we honor this season of freedom, this Independence Weekend coming up, I invite you to reflect not on where you're stuck, but what you're ready to release. What are you ready to give up in order to make space for what's coming in the future? Who are you becoming? And if you're ready to explore that, I would love to walk with you. Schedule a free Imagining Your Next Chapter call with me. The link is below in the show notes, and I'd love to walk with you and help you through this. Let this Independence Day be about claiming a new kind of freedom, the freedom to be fully, tenderly, courageously you. And until next time, take care of yourself and your heart and dream big. Thanks. If you liked what you heard on this podcast and want to hear more, please follow us and tell your friends. You can also find me on Facebook at Amy Lindner Lesser, Grief to Growth Life Coaching, and on LinkedIn at Amy Lindner.